The European media and leaders have been concerned about the US election due to statements made by both the former and current president-elect regarding NATO's defense spending. President Trump raised the question of whether the US should continue as a member of NATO, suggesting that ignoring defense spending targets could prevent the extension of Article 5, the foundation of NATO collective defense. The new Secretary General, Mark Rutte, has made it public that the former and future president is correct regarding defense spending. In 2014, Russia seized Crimea from Ukraine and supported an armed separatist movement in eastern Ukraine. NATO member countries agreed to increase defense spending to 2% of their GDP in response to Russia's actions in Ukraine. However, NATO member states nearly universally ignored the 2% GDP target, with weapons not being sent to Ukraine, rampant corruption, and Russian oil and gas flowing into Europe. NATO countries and leadership reassured themselves that they were meeting the 2% of GDP goal in collective quantities, but defense spending has fallen short of the agreed-upon 2% GDP target for 10 out of 11 years, reaching 2.2% of GDP in 2024. French President Emmanuel Macron has urged Europe to prioritize defense, advocating for a defense-independent Europe that does not rely on the US for its security. This new wishful European security order, modeled after Gaullism, will be led by France, which has failed to meet the NATO obligation 9 out of 11 years. The NATO leader, Secretary General Rutte, has publicly addressed Europe's anxiety when he stated that Europe should increase its defense spending and that President Trump's criticism was valid. The Munich-based IFO Institute released a report stating that European NATO countries and Canada need to spend on their 2% GDP target, but they also have a deficit to make up. The harsh reality is that NATO has only a 27% compliance rate, and European leaders should consider whether they want to be in NATO if they continue to ignore, even today, what they all agreed to do. The European Union could take a more active role in enforcing compliance on states that are both in the EU and NATO, exerting pressure on EU members to comply. The US and the EU can also use their combined economic power to induce non-EU NATO countries into compliance, such as Canada. These suggestions are merely potential approaches to achieve compliance, and European leaders need to stop fearmongering and find solutions which should not be too hard, since they all agreed to the solution 11 years ago.